You don't belong here. Get out." The words cracked through the marble lobby like a slap across polished glass. It was 10:42 a.m., Midtown Manhattan, inside the gilded atrium of the Valiant Hotel 5 Stars. 10 chandeliers and zero humility. Gregory Madsen, the general manager, stood behind the front desk, arms crossed, chin lifted. His voice didn't shake. It projected on purpose, loud enough for every guest in the room to hear. Loud enough to echo the man he was speaking to. A black man in charcoal joggers, a fitted turtleneck, and scuffed leather boots. No watch, no briefcase, just a single carry-on and a face that said he'd been through this before. That man was Elijah Brooks, and in exactly 20 minutes, he would fire every person standing behind the counter. But right now, he said nothing, didn't argue, didn't flinch. He just looked at Gregory, eyes level, calm like someone weighing silence against strategy. "Security's coming," Gregory added, this time with a smirk. "You can't just walk in off the street and claim a penthouse. It doesn't work like that here." The room shifted. A woman in heels near the elevator paused mid-step. A bellhop hesitated, tray wobbling. And from behind a velvet sofa, a teenager slowly raised her phone, red light on, recording. Elijah glanced around, absorbing every glance, every whisper. This wasn't the first time, and Gregory wasn't the first man. At 27, Elijah had been kicked off a conference panel he was scheduled to headline because security thought he was the AV guy. At 34, a luxury car showroom refused to unlock the vehicle he came to purchase, told him to come back with a real buyer. And now at 42, in a hotel built on land his company helped finance, the same narrative returned. Different lobbies, same contempt. "Sir, I'm asking you to leave before this gets ugly," Gregory said again. Voice firmer, now a manager with audience, mistaking humiliation for protocol. Elijah's hands never moved from the handle of his bag. He didn't reach for his ID, didn't flash credentials. He just stood there, anchored, measured, waiting. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Elijah. The moment before the storm. The bell above the entrance had barely stopped chiming when Elijah Brooks stepped inside. No fanfare, no valet drop-off. Just a quiet entrance through the revolving door and a calm walk across the lobby floor. His suitcase wheels didn't squeak, his boots barely tapped, but somehow every step disturbed the space. Because he wasn't just a guest, he was a disruption. He wore no brand names, no tailored coat, no visible wealth, just a fitted charcoal turtleneck, travel pants that moved like he did, and a carry-on that had seen continents. Behind the counter, Gregory had noticed him the moment he stepped in. Not because Elijah demanded attention, but because he didn't. The kind of man who walked into luxury without apology. That made Gregory itch. Elijah approached the front desk. "I'm checking in. Name's Brooks. Elijah Brooks." Gregory didn't smile, didn't even look up fully. Just typed, slowly, deliberately. "You booked the penthouse." His voice curled around the word like it was spoiled fruit. "That's right." Gregory finally looked at him, really looked. A flicker of discomfort crossed his face, quickly masked by procedure. "I'll need to see your ID and the card you used." Elijah handed both over. No hesitation, just quiet clarity. Gregory took the ID between the fingers like it might leave a mark. His eyes scanned the card, then the man, then back again. That's when it started. The shift, the delay that wasn't technical, it was personal. Gregory tapped a few keys, frowned, tapped again, then leaned slightly to the side. Toward the junior staffer beside him, a young woman named Heather, barely 22. Trying hard not to react, he whispered, "Another fake penthouse claim." Heather didn't answer, just blinked once and kept still. Gregory leaned closer to Elijah. "There seems to be an error. That room is already assigned." Elijah's brow lifted, just slightly. "Assigned by whom?" "I don't know, sir. Perhaps you misread your booking, or you're at the wrong hotel. Elijah didn't move. He'd heard that phrase before. At 19, in Chicago, applied for a leadership program, was told he was too early in his career even though he met every requirement. At 31, trying to lease a workspace, asked if he was with the catering team. Now here, at 42, the same narrative returned, dressed different, worth millions. Still doubted on entry. He exhaled once, slow, controlled. I booked the room under a corporate tier. My name should be in your VIP list. Gregory didn't even pretend to check. He handed the ID back, harder than necessary. There's been an issue with verification. I'm going to have to ask you to wait over there. He motioned to a low bench near the window, the kind used by tourists, not executives. Guests began to glance over. A couple paused mid-conversation. Someone whispered, "Is there a problem?" Gregory raised his voice slightly, enough for nearby ears. "Sir," I said, "please step aside until we can confirm your details." Elijah looked down, not out of shame, but calculation. Then, calmly, "You're certain you want to go this route?" Gregory's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm certain this hotel doesn't hand out penthouse keys to walk-ins with stories." That's when Heather looked up, just for a moment. She didn't speak, but her eyes said everything. She'd seen the name. She knew who he was. And now, she watched her manager double down on the biggest mistake of his career. Heather had barely looked away when Gregory picked up the house phone. "This is front desk. I need a security presence in the lobby," he said, not even pretending to lower his voice. Elijah heard it. Everyone did. No threats, no raised voice. But still he was treated like risk. "Guest dispute," Gregory added, "might be a fraudulent booking." The words weren't about verification. They were about humiliation. Elijah didn't move, just glanced down at his phone, thumbed the lock screen, then slipped it back into his coat. He wasn't here to argue. He was here to confirm something. Across the lobby, a woman in a navy pantsuit leaned over to her husband and whispered, "He hasn't even said anything wrong." A family at the coffee bar paused mid-bite. The lobby, once filled with light conversation and light, just now pulsed with tension. Heather shifted behind the desk. "I can double-check the system if..." Gregory cut her off with a wave. "I've got it." But he didn't, and Heather knew it. Still, she said nothing. Yet, then came Marcus, the security officer. Tall, stocky, late 40s, ex-military posture. Stepped out from the elevator alcove with a heavy radio clipped to his chest. And it looked like he'd seen this play out before. Gregory gestured without hesitation. "That's him. Wouldn't step aside. Gave me a suspicious ID. Claims he's some VIP." Marcus didn't question. Just started walking. Elijah stood still, unbothered. The suitcase still at his side. His hands in his coat pockets. No fear. Only stillness. Marcus approached. "Sir, I'm going to need you to move to the seating area until we get this sorted." Elijah's voice was low, controlled. "Is there a reason I'm being treated like a threat?" Marcus blinked. That wasn't the response he expected. "No one said threat. Just need you to comply." "Comply with what?" "Standing silently while your manager escalates a non-issue." Marcus glanced at Gregory, then back to Elijah. "This doesn't have to be complicated. It already is." A beat passed, and then the camera clicked. A guest. Late 20s. Black. Hoodie. Beanie. Holding a Canon DSLR. His lens captured the moment. No words. Just truth. Next to him, a white couple watched in visible discomfort. The woman whispered, "This is wrong." Gregory turned sharply. Photography isn't allowed in this lobby. But the camera stayed up. Heather looked like she wanted to disappear. "Sir," Marcus said again, more firm this time, "step aside or I'll have to escort you." Elijah finally moved. Not back, forward, just one step. Then, calm as gravity. "You call security on a guest who handed over verified ID, gave no attitude, and didn't raise his voice. That's the story being written right now." Gregory scoffed. "You think this is about race? That's the game you're playing?" Elijah blinked once, I'm not playing anything. I'm standing here. You're the one acting. Heather dropped her pen, and across the lobby, more guests began pulling out their phones. Not to call anyone, to document, to witness. Gregory noticed and doubled down. You're holding up operations. There are real guests waiting. That line cracked something open. From behind a luggage trolley, a man in a gray peacoat raised his voice. He is a guest. I watched him hand over everything. Gregory froze. Elijah didn't move, because he didn't have to. The room was shifting. Elijah Brooks didn't raise his voice. He didn't pace, protest, or plead. He simply stood like time had slowed around him and the chaos was just background noise. Marcus, the security officer, hovered uncertainly. He dealt with angry guests, entitled clients, belligerent drunks. But this man didn't move like a problem. He moved like a verdict waiting to drop. Gregory was still flustered, trying to maintain authority through sheer volume. Look, this is simple. If you don't leave now, I'll have you trespassed. He snapped. The word trespass landed heavy like a gavel, loud and wrong. But Elijah didn't respond, not to Gregory, not to Marcus. Instead, he turned slightly toward Heather, held her gaze, calm and tact. Did you see my name in the system? Heather froze. Everyone else in the room was arguing about identity. He asked the only person who knew the truth. She hesitated. I did. This morning, VIP list, penthouse suite. The sentence didn't need punctuation. It punctured. Gregory spun toward her. Excuse me? Heather swallowed. It's there. His name. I saw it. Elijah nodded once. Thank you. Then back to stillness. Marcus took a half step back, posture changing. Less enforcer, more observer now. From the lounge seating, a guest with silver hair whispered, He knew all along. Gregory tried to regroup. She's a trainee. Doesn't have access to confirm anything. I'll check myself. But the damage was done. Heather had cracked the illusion, and Elijah hadn't even raised his hand to do it. In the corner, the man with the DSLR kept filming. From behind the concierge desk, another junior staffer, a young Asian man named Darren, watched silently, eyes wide. His fingers hovered above the keyboard, frozen between fear and clarity. Elijah stood in the center of it all like a quiet flame. No yelling, no shaming, just truth. And somehow, that was more dangerous than a scene. Gregory turned again, desperate now. You're making a spectacle. No, Elijah replied, voice level. You are. Then silence. Sharply heavy, contagious. The kind of silence that makes everyone realize where the real power is. Phones were still up, recording still running, and the room wasn't just watching anymore. It was weighing. Across the lobby, a child tugged her mother's coat. Mom, why are they being mean to him? The mother didn't answer, but she didn't stop her daughter from looking. Gregory reached for the house phone again, but this time, his fingers hovered, as if he finally realized he wasn't in control of this moment anymore. Elijah looked around slowly, measured, unshaken. Then, to no one in particular, he spoke. Every room has a truth, and this one, it's starting to speak. The first voice came from the velvet armchair near the grand piano. A woman, early 60s, pearls around her neck and judgment in her posture, cleared her throat and said, Excuse me, I saw him hand over ID and a card. You never even checked the system. Gregory blinked. He hadn't expected her. A guest in tailored cream slacks, sipping imported tea, breaking the script. But she wasn't alone. From behind the coffee kiosk, a man in his 30s tourist jacket half-zipped, latte in hand, turned to his partner and said louder, You think they'd treat me like that if I walked in with jeans and a backpack? Someone from the corner muttered, He's been silent the whole time. And then came the second click. Not a camera, a phone. The teenager from earlier, black hoodie, red AirPods, lifted her phone fully now, recording, boldly, clearly. I'm not putting this away, she said. Everyone needs to see this. Gregory snapped, You're violating hotel policy. That's private footage. But she didn't flinch. "It's a public lobby," she answered flatly. "And this is public discrimination." Heather looked like she might cry. Elijah hadn't moved, still centered, still holding silence like it was a sword. Another voice, now deeper, firm, from a man in his 50s seated near the concierge table. A dark suit, business class aura. "I manage risk for a living," he said. "And I can tell you this, what you just escalated is going to cost this hotel a lot more than a room night." Gregory's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, his words began to fail him. Meanwhile, Darren, the junior staffer at the concierge desk, quietly pulled up the internal guest log. His fingers moved fast, eyes scanning rows. Then he found it. Elijah Brooks, corporate platinum, penthouse suite, 3-night block, paid in advance. He didn't say anything yet, but his lips parted slightly, and Elijah saw it. A nod. Not loud, not public, but aligned. More phones were up now, the quiet tension of witnesses shifting from observers to participants. Gregory tried one last angle. "To everyone recording, you're misinformed. We're simply following protocol." "You didn't follow anything," said the woman in pearls. "You profiled him." The word profiled rang louder than it should have. It wasn't shouted, but it cracked through the chandelier-filtered air like thunder. Heather, trembling slightly, whispered, "I shouldn't have stayed quiet." Elijah turned his head gently toward her. "You didn't stay quiet," he said. "Not when it mattered." The weight of that line settled on everyone. And then the teen filming spoke again. "I'm tagging every media account I follow. This is what people mean when they say it's not about yelling. It's about how they treat you when they think no one's watching." Darren looked up from the computer. His voice was low, but resolute. "His name's in the system." Gregory turned. "What?" Darren repeated. "Mr. Brooks, Elijah Brooks, penthouse suite, confirmed and prepaid. Corporate tier, top-tier access." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was awakening, because now the truth wasn't hidden. It was displayed. And the room, the guests, the staff, the marble walls and vaulted ceilings all seemed to breathe at once. But Elijah? He just nodded, as if this was only part of the plan. Just when the room began to shift, when the tide seemed to turn, the double doors behind the concierge opened with a heavy push. A new figure emerged. Tall, blonde, blazer sharp enough to slice, clipboard in one hand, disdain in the other. Rebecca Langston, hotel director of guest operations. She walked like a final decision, and she spoke like one too. "What exactly is going on here?" Gregory, relieved to pass the heat, motioned wildly. "This man," he said, "refused to cooperate, claims he booked the penthouse, no verification. Staff's been harassed. Guests disrupted." Rebecca didn't look at Gregory. She looked at Elijah. One glance. That was enough. Not because she recognized him, but because she didn't. No suit, no concierge escort, no luggage cart piled high with status. Just a black man, alone, in control. Her eyes narrowed. "Sir," she said crisply, "if there's a misunderstanding about your reservation, I suggest you take it up with our legal department, right now. I'm asking you to leave." The lobby paused again. No gasp, just a shift in air. The moment when people realize someone's choosing the wrong hill to die on. Elijah didn't move. Rebecca stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to make it personal. "You've created enough of a scene. This is a luxury establishment, not a protest platform." From the seating area, the man in the business suit muttered. She didn't even check his name. The teenager's phone was still recording. "And Darren?" He stood. "Ms. Langston," he said, voice trembling but firm. "Mr. Brooks is in our system. I confirmed it. Penthouse, 3 nights, corporate level clearance." Rebecca turned sharply. "Darren, that's not your place." "But it is," he replied, "because it's in black and white, right here." He pointed to the screen. "And the only thing missing is the respect that should have come with it." Heather looked up from her desk, eyes wide. Elijah still hadn't spoken. Not because he had nothing to say, because the room was starting to say it for him. Rebecca's eyes flicked to Gregory, then back to Elijah. I don't care what the screen says, she said. Your behavior is not aligned with our values. You're making people uncomfortable. The woman in pearl stood. Not true, she said. Another man, tourist jacket zipped now, added, he's the calmest person in this lobby. Rebecca raised her voice slightly. I'm speaking with a guest. He's not just a guest, Darn interrupted. He's on the executive client list. Corporate knows him, and if you check the system audit log, you'll see his reservation was flagged right after Gregory accessed it. Gregory's mouth opened, but Darn wasn't done, and it wasn't flagged before. That sentence hit the floor harder than a dropped wine glass. Phones were still up. The DSLR man zoomed in tighter. Rebecca's lips pressed together. Elijah finally spoke. His voice was low, razor precise. If this is how your hotel defines values, you're going to have a real problem in about 5 minutes. Rebecca laughed short, sharp, dismissive. Are you threatening me? No, Elijah said. I'm informing you. Silence. And then he added, you just made the same mistake twice. But the second one, you made in front of witnesses. Rebecca didn't blink. Not at the phones. Not at the whispers. Not at the rising tide of eyes watching her unravel in real time. Instead, she turned to Marcus, the security officer, and said with surgical coldness, remove him now. Marcus hesitated. His feet didn't move. I said, Rebecca repeated, louder, remove him from this property, immediately. Elijah didn't flinch. He looked at Marcus not with defiance, but with clarity. The kind of clarity that says, you're being watched too. Then Gregory, in a last act of manufactured dominance, stepped from behind the desk. He reached over fast, sloppy grabbed Elijah's carry-on by the handle, and yanked it. The suitcase dragged across the marble floor like it didn't belong there. Gregory dropped it at Marcus's feet. There, escort him with his belongings. He's done. Elijah's eyes followed the suitcase, now scuffed and tilted. His voice remained even. You just put your hands on personal property, without cause, without consent, and without legal authority. Gregory sneered. You're lucky, that's all I touched. A gasp escaped from the woman with the pearls. Heather stepped back from her station, hand over her mouth. Darren's face drained color. Even Rebecca's smile faltered just slightly. From the far side of the lobby, the teenager filming whispered into her phone. He grabbed his bag. Just like that, like he owned him. Then came the flash from the DSLR. Then another phone went live on TikTok. Then another on Instagram. The room was no longer quiet. It was charged. And then, quietly, Elijah crouched down. He picked up the bag, wiped the scuff with his sleeve, stood back up taller than before. Not just in height, and presence, and purpose. He looked around not just at Gregory and Rebecca, but at every guest watching. You escalated a situation that never existed. You touched what didn't belong to you. And now, he paused. You've made your final mistake. Rebecca snapped, you're delusional. But Elijah ignored her. He pulled out his phone, unlocked it with a quick swipe, tapped once. The call rang twice. Then, yes, sir. A voice, calm, professional, female. Carla, Elijah said. Begin Protocol 5. A beep. Confirmed. Mr. Brooks. Internal trace already active. Full system logging underway. Gregory blinked. Rebecca narrowed her eyes. Protocol what? Elijah looked at her, quiet, sharp. The one that records every biased action and links it to your employment record in real time. A silence heavier than marble fell. Rebecca's jaw clenched. You're bluffing. But behind the concierge's desk, Darren gasped. He was watching his own screen light up. A red banner flashed. Audit mode enabled executive override. Gregory turned to him. What the hell is that? Darren didn't answer. Because he couldn't. The system was no longer theirs. From the coffee bar, a woman in glasses murmured, he's not bluffing. He's been preparing this the whole time. Elijah slipped his phone back into his coat, then turned, slow and deliberate, to Rebecca. You touched my name, my reputation, and now my property. Then to Gregory. And you did it all in public. Marcus, the security officer, stepped back. He didn't want to be anywhere near what was about to happen. Elijah took one small step forward, calm, centered, deadly composed. You wanted a spectacle, he said. Now watch what justice looks like. Carla's voice came again, this time clearer, tighter. Mr. Brooks, I've activated full trace across all hotel staff interactions over the last 45 minutes. Voice pattern match, surveillance sync, and guest witness proximity logs are now live. Rebecca stiffened. What is this? Who the hell are you calling? Elijah didn't look at her. He was already moving, not walking, asserting. He stepped behind the front desk to the side Gregory had claimed like a throne and placed his phone flat on the marble counter. Guests leaned in. Phones followed him. Heather and Darn both stepped back instinctively, parting like tides. Elijah tapped the speaker icon. Carla's voice filled the lobby. Gregory Mattson, flagged for unauthorized profile override. Rebecca Langston, logged as party to verbal misconduct and unlawful detainment protocol. Gregory's voice cracked. Excuse me? Carla continued, unbothered. Marcus Denham. Security pending review, but currently within protocol compliance. Heather Yoon flagged as first responder to guest mistreatment, but not intervening. Heather's eyes widened. I tried. Elijah held up a hand. Gentle. This isn't about punishment. It's about accountability. Then, more firm. Carla. Initiate silent witness sync. Confirm. Carla replied. Facial ID of all guest observers now mapped to incident archive. Consent data compiling via proximity. Rebecca grabbed the edge of the counter like it could anchor her. This isn't legal. You can't override our system. But Darn quietly turned his monitor toward her. It now read, Executive level override Brooks Enterprises compliance bridge active. His lips parted. He's not bluffing. It's real. His company's back end just took full control. Gregory stepped forward like anger could undo exposure. You think you can just walk in, play tech god, and Elijah cut him off. I didn't walk in to play anything. I walked in to check into a suite I paid for. The rest. He gestured slowly. You did that. From the far end of the lobby, the teenager with the phone whispered into her live feed. He flipped the script. He owns it now. All of it. Then a chime. Loud, sharp, from the front desk terminal. Heather's screen flashed. Protocol 5 stage to active system lock. She gasped. It just froze. No one can log in. Carla confirmed through speaker. Front desk systems have been locked pending executive review. All guest data, room assignments, internal logs, and audit trails are now mirrored to the Brooks Secure Cloud Compliance database. Rebecca's voice broke. You're not allowed to do that. This isn't your system. Then came Elijah's turn. Calm. Clear. No. But this building is under a long-term management contract with Brooks Holdings. Your system runs on our architecture. Your compliance department reports to ours. A beat. Then, and I'm your oversight. The room didn't cheer. It didn't need to. The silence said more. Gregory backed away from the desk. Rebecca looked toward the elevators like they might save her. Carla's voice, one final time. Mr. Brooks, do you wish to proceed to escalation review? Elijah exhaled, then tapped the mic. Begin stage 3. The air in the lobby shifted, not from movement, from revelation. Gregory took a step back, eyes darting to the front entrance like escape might be an option. Rebecca's jaw clenched as if holding in a scream that had nowhere to go. Heather simply froze, lips parted, eyes wide, watching a truth she'd suspected now arrive with thunder. Elijah stood at the center of it all, still composed, still anchored, and then, without raising his voice, he spoke. My name is Elijah Brooks. A pause. Deliberate, founder and CEO of Brooks Holdings Group. Silence fell sharp and absolute. Our portfolio includes 14 luxury properties in this city alone. The Valiant, he glanced slowly around the lobby, is one of them. A beat passed, then another, and then the room exhaled. Not with disbelief, but recognition. Because suddenly, it all made sense. The calm, the precision, the silence that carried weight. Heather whispered, almost to herself, "I thought that name sounded familiar." Darren sank back into his seat like the air had left him. Gregory looked sick. Rebecca tried to recover, stammering, "There must have been some mistake in communication. If you had simply identified yourself." Elijah's gaze turned to her, sharp enough to stop breath. "If I had worn a Rolex, walked in with a driver, or flashed a business card, would you have handed me the key without hesitation?" No one answered. He didn't need them to. "But I walked in as me. Quiet, black, alone." Another pause. Then, "And you decided I didn't belong." The words weren't loud, but they shattered. Phones were still raised. The teenager's live stream hit 6 digits. The comment section flooded. "HOWNS the place." They touched his bag. The silence was never weakness. From the side seating area, the business-suited man who had watched everything nodded slowly. "I knew I recognized you. Forbes cover, 2 years ago. You turned this chain around after the 2020 collapse." Elijah gave the man a slight nod. Rebecca, now pale, muttered, "We had no idea." "That's the point," Elijah interrupted, calm but final. "You treated someone like less because you thought they were." Darren leaned forward, voice shaking. "Sir, I just want to say, I'm sorry." Elijah looked at him, not with judgment, but with something heavier. "You saw the truth, and you spoke it. That matters." Then his voice shifted, not cold, but commanding. "What doesn't matter is who I am now. It's who you thought I wasn't." Rebecca collapsed into silence. Gregory said nothing. From behind her, Heather slowly took a step back out from behind the desk as if distancing herself from a sinking ship. And for the first time since Elijah had entered the lobby, no one gave him orders. No one questioned his name. No one touched his bag. Because now, the truth was standing tall in plain sight. It started slow. A single clap from the man in the tailored gray suit near the concierge. Deliberate, steady. Then another. From the woman in pearls, hands firm, eyes wet, the kind of applause that carries apology. Then the coffee bar couple. Then the teen with the live stream, still holding her phone high, saying into the mic, "They just found out who he is. They're clapping now. It's happening." Within seconds, the lobby was filled with applause. Not loud, but pointed, respectful, like the room itself was offering penance. Gregory's eyes darted between the guests, the phones, the applause, then back to Elijah. "No one said your race had anything to do with it," he muttered weakly. Elijah turned, slowly. "You didn't have to." Gregory's shoulders sagged. Rebecca took a shaky breath. The clipboard in her hand now trembled, fingers white from grip. "She wasn't aware of any of this," she stammered. "If corporate didn't inform us." "Corporate did," Elijah replied. "The email was sent days ago. Subject line, CEO Elijah Brooks arrival VIP protocol." Darren's eyes widened. "I remember seeing that," he whispered. Rebecca blinked, frozen. "You saw it and didn't connect the name." "I thought it couldn't be him," Darren replied honestly. "He came in alone. No entourage, no flash, no arrogance," Heather added softly. Gregory stepped forward, face drained. "Mr. Brooks, if we can discuss this in private." "No." Elijah's response cut clean. "You made this public. Now let the consequences be just as visible." Then, to Carla on speaker, "Activate Phase 4. Initiate immediate staff review protocol." Carla's voice responded, as composed as ever. "Understood. Termination logs and formal audit proceedings beginning." First line, Gregory Madsen. Second, Rebecca Langston. "Building access revoked in 3 minutes." Gregory staggered. "Wait, this can't be how it ends." Elijah's gaze held him. "It's how it always ends, when ego overrides dignity." Rebecca stepped forward, reaching not for Elijah, but for the counter, the moment. "Anything to hold on to? You can't just fire people in front of guests. Then you shouldn't have tried to humiliate one." A hush, the kind that comes not from fear but clarity. Heather removed her name badge, quietly, walked around the desk, and stood beside Elijah. "I'm not asking to keep my job," she said. I'm asking to do the right thing now, because silence is consent, and I consented to long. Elijah looked at her, a beat, then nodded. I'll remember that. Behind her, Darren shut down his monitor, folded his hands. I'd like to transfer, not because I want to leave, but because I want to learn. Elijah smiled, just slightly. You will. Phones were still up, guests still recording. But now, no one was watching for drama. They were witnessing resolution. The silence broke with a chime. Short, digital, final. From behind the desk, Darren's screen flashed once, then went black. Heather's too. Gregory spun toward it, confused. What happened? Carla's voice answered through Elijah's phone. Front desk access disabled. Credentials for Gregory Madsen and Rebecca Langston have been revoked. Employee status terminated. Access badges will deactivate in 45 seconds. Rebecca's breath caught. You don't understand. I've worked here 15 years. Elijah turned toward her, calm, implacable. Then 15 years taught you nothing about humility. Gregory stumbled forward, reaching toward the system terminal. It beeped red. Access denied. You don't have the authority. I built the authority, Elijah said, voice cutting through the room. Brick by contract, server by server, name by name. Rebecca looked toward Marcus. Do something. But Marcus had already stepped back, hands behind his back, neutral, respectful. I follow property owner protocol. My post ends with a shift. Then, the lobby doors slid open with a soft hiss. Two uniformed compliance escorts from the parent company entered, black suits, earpieces, professionalism wrapped in calm. One approached Gregory. Sir, we'll be escorting you from the premises. Gregory shook his head, panicked. This is insane. I didn't sign up to be humiliated, but you did it to someone else. The line came from a voice in the crowd, the man in the gray suit. Watching with arms crossed, Rebecca turned to Elijah, voice cracking. You could have just walked away. Let this go. And what lesson would that teach you? The escorts moved in. Gregory's arms flailed slightly, voice rising. I have people. I know people. Elijah met his eyes one last time. Tell them what happened. Show them the footage. Let them decide if they still know you. Gregory was guided gently toward the exit. Rebecca followed, slower, not resisting, but stunned. Her heels clicked across the marble like an echo of pride breaking. Guests stepped aside. No applause this time, just respect. Reverent silence. Heather turned to Elijah. Do you want us to reset the desk? Elijah shook his head. No. Let it sit. Let the next manager walk into this moment. And remember, Darren looked up. Should I notify the regional HR? They've already been looped in. Carla, status update. Carla's voice. Termination notices sent. Badge access revoked. Incident report archived across legal, PR, and executive systems. Reputation review begins in 12 minutes. Elijah looked around, then finally gently took his place behind the front desk. He didn't sit. He just stood there, hands resting lightly on the marble. A black man, centered, unafraid, unmistakably in charge. And for once everyone saw him, exactly as he was. Elijah didn't linger. He didn't gloat. No smile, no final speech. Just a glance slow and steady across the lobby he now fully owned. Heather stepped aside. Darren nodded once. The man in the gray suit gave a subtle salute. Even the teen with the live stream lowered her phone for the first time, because they understood. The show was over. The lesson, however, had just begun. Elijah turned toward the elevator. Still no bellhop, still no assistant. He pressed the button himself. The doors opened. He stepped in, alone, but no longer unseen. The elevator closed without a word, and yet it spoke volumes. Back in the lobby, the weight of what had happened settled in, not just on Gregory's absence, not just on Rebecca's downfall, but on every guest who had watched a black man calm, composed, brilliant, treated like a problem until power demanded otherwise. The woman in pearls turned to the teen. Will you post the video? The girl looked at her, already live, already viral. Then she looked back at the elevator. They'll never look at him the same again. The woman shook her head. No, but maybe they'll look at themselves differently too. Outside, a black SUV pulled to the curb. No sirens, no security. Elijah stepped out of the hotel moments later, suitcase in hand. His driver opened the rear door. Elijah didn't get in right away. He looked up at the name carved in gold above the entrance, the Valiant, then back down, because he didn't need to see the name to know it was his. The world would remind him enough times he didn't belong. He didn't need to remind it that he did. He simply was. And as he stepped into the car, he left behind something more powerful than any speech. Proof, not just of ownership, but of restraint, of dignity without noise, of power without threat, of justice without theatrics. And for everyone watching in that lobby or behind a screen, the message was carved in granite. They didn't hear him because he shouted. They heard him because he never needed to. So now, what about you? Before you scroll away, answer this. What would you have done if you were standing in that lobby? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you believe in justice and dignity and in rewriting the way power is seen, hit share. Because Elijah isn't the only one walking into rooms where he's not expected to belong. But he won't be the last to own them. And we won't be the last to watch him do it.